and welcome to another sneak peek Saturday at the Alameda Free Library. My name is Jenny, and today we're going to read some nonfiction that I'm very excited about. The book is called Hello Town, and it is by Mitchell Schwarzer, Oakland's History of Development and Disruption. So it's a book about Oakland, which I'm very excited about to know more about, and it has some maps in here too. Here. And I'm gonna get started with the introduction, so you have a little bit of an idea what it is about, and if you would like to check it out, you can do so in our new non-fiction section. All right, I'm gonna get started. There is no there. Gertrude Stein's notorious statement about Oakland appeared in her 1937 memoir, Everybody's Autobiography. Stein lived in Oakland from age 6 to 17. In 1891, she moved with her family to Baltimore, and in 1935, now a noted author and socialite, returned for a lecture tour. Speaking at the English Club at Mills College, she grudgingly agreed to visit her former stomping grounds around 13th Avenue and East 25th Street. In the intervening 44 years, the landscape had been recast from an occasional farmhouse surrounded by rose bushes and peach and eucalyptus trees to corridors of single-family dwellings. The Steins' family house and expansive grounds were gone. Gertrude was disoriented and later penned the famous remark, regardless of the fact that she was expressing the kind of disappointment that most people would feel, would feel upon revisiting a home long departed and witnessing that everything had changed. Her words have since underpinned a false impression that Oakland is lacking in something. In some place. It is worth recalling that in 1935, what may have distressed Stein had uplifted the builders of the district, as well as its residents and businesses. Starting in the 1890s, Oaklanders experienced a profound increase in their personal mobility through the aegis of electric streetcars, which turned the walking city into a radial metropolis. After the 1906 earthquake, which destroyed San Francisco, Oakland's growth accelerated. New industries capitalized on California's growth. Housing construction ramped up, and macadamized roads were laid for the latest mass phenomenon, automobiles. At the time of Stein's visit, the Great Depression had dampened investment, but it resumed with a vengeance during the Second World War. Had Stein been able to come back 44 years after her lecture tour visit in 1979, she would have experienced a city transformed once more. Scattered apartment buildings broke up single-family house rows, many of whose windows were now secured by metal bars. Buses ran where streetcars had. Upslope and 8-lane freeway coursed across the base of the hills, and higher still, on what had been cascading carpets of wildflowers, the latest subdivisions were being erected. Down by the waterfront, the manufacturing belt was emptying. Once vibrant commercial arteries were marred by unoccupied storefronts and vacant lots. Another process of the city change was taking place, disinvestment yielding deterioration. When Stein visited her former neighborhood, she had recently returned to America after having spent over 30 years in Paris. Approaching a city like Oakland with European preconceptions of stability, hierarchy, and monumentality invariably leads to disappointment. Place in California is better understood as a verb and not a noun. a process of moving and making and remaking. If Oakland appears faceless at times, that is less a flaw on its part and more an inability of an observer to appreciate the fits and starts of urbanization in a California city. Instead of grand canvas showing finished pieces in flawless order, cities like Oakland, Sacramento, Los Angeles, and even the European-seeming San Francisco expose snapshots of city formation and deformation, driven by economics, technology, and politics. One where the Civil War jump-started cotton production in California farmlands, leading to cotton manufacturing alongside the waterfront. Another when innovation in transportation, the electric traction streetcar, cast commercial strips across the flatlands and lower hills. And another still where the racist approach to guaranteeing mortgage loans on the part of federal agency, the Homeowners Loan Corporation, brought deprivation to minority neighborhoods. Land use and building patterns are a puzzle that can only be deciphered by going back in time. Following the patchy moments when plans get realized or not, when the variable trajectories of real estate acts become apparent, and when the changing priorities of governmental and business entities make themselves felt after progressing northward from the waterfront, Oakland co-set and a retail district on Lower Washington Street and an office center around 14th and Broadway. While a new office district arose along Lake Merritt's western end, the retail district continued to move north along Broadway and then disintegrated. Numerous plans were hatched for a civic center on the lake's southern side. Oakland ended up with 3 dispersed collections of governmental buildings and only one by the lake. When land was available, Oakland leaders failed to set aside a large central park in the vicinity of Lake Merritt. Park acquisitions took place primarily in the upper hills, far from where most of the population lived. It is from those lofty heights where we can get comprehensive visual pictures of Oakland's land use and building patterns. The waters claimed from the bay for manufacturing and the Port of Oakland, the transportation industry corridors paralleling the waterfront, the high-rise offices and the residencies downtown and by the lake, the sea of low-rise housing stretching from those districts across the flatlands, lower hills and upper hills, punctuated here and there by hospitals, church spires, and a tall office or apartment block. Equally, we can construe the city's natural geography. A sweep of terrain fronting an estuary of San Francisco Bay and shielded by the San Francisco Peninsula from the direct winds and fog of the Pacific Ocean. A landscape canvas ascending from the bay's salt marshes to alluvial plains to undulating hillsides and finally steep canyons and peaks topping out at 1,760 feet. Hellertown, Oakland's history of development and destruction, examines Oakland's built environment from the 1890s to the early 21st century, from the time when population growth, industrialization, and mechanized transportation unleashed the conditions for the modern city, to the contemporary moment when the region's galloping information age economy has produced a dire housing shortage amid lopsided privatization of urban development. Over the span of more than 125 years, I tracked the uneven pace of development, the booms and busts, the build-ups and breakdowns of a great American city. I analyzed how transportation improvements charted its growth, how built functions, housing, workplace, shopping, and civic culture recreation were realized, and how those functions were subject to elite control and inequities tied to race. Development, the act of adding to and or subtracting from the physical makeup of a city, invariably brings forth disruption. How development proceeds gradually or rapidly, thoughtfully or recklessly, openly or behind closed doors, determines the severity of the disruption as well as who comes out ahead and who gets left behind. The title Hellertown draws from two local memes. Most Bay Area residents call San Francisco the city. By contrast, many Oaklanders refer to their home as the town, Oaktown. And acknowledgement of its smaller size and stature and its gritty, down-to-earth vibe, the term Heller popped up with East Bay youth culture after the 1970s, a shortened version of Hellover or Helicious. Helicious. Never heard that one. Signifying very or extremely, an adverb like the Southern California totally, that gives an adjective or noun both emphasis and a distinct regional flavor. Together, the words Heller and town, Hellertown, describe an Oakland that has struggled to measure up to its adjacent metropolitan center, but at the same time, an Oakland prideful in its upstart status, an Oakland not only warmer in weather but warmer in personality, an Oakland as an exceptional convergence of religions, ethnicities, races, social classes, and sexual orientations. Back in 1987, hip-hop artist Too Short rapped to the song Oakland, Oakland, Oaktown, Oakland, Oaktown. Straight from the west, Oakland is the best, baby it's so fresh. To know why Oakland can be hella fresh or hella disrespectful, another song by Too Short, we need to start with the economic geography that underlies the town's advent. From colonial through contemporary times, land development has been central to the formation of an American society. Once surveyed, recorded, and put up for sale, land is developed and disrupted, recast into a more valuable resource and more intensive activity. An acre occupied by forest becomes a farmstead. It might give way later to residence and afterward storefronts or office buildings. Each change cements the land to rules of law, political machinations, and a marketplace of expectations, exchange, and exploitation. Access is crucial in both senses of the word. First, people benefit by being able to get to a particular location with increasing ease and speed. A lot of land links into a network that ramps up connections to other people and places. Second, people purchase, occupy, or benefit from the connected plot of land. Control is taken by certain individuals or segments of society while others are kept out. In Hellertown, I give special emphasis to how emergent transportation technologies and systemic racism configured access to urbanized land. Circulatory infrastructures from public mass transit to private automobiles and long-standing biases against people of color were perpetuated at individual and societal levels and operated as synergistic factors in growth of the built environment and its patterns of neighborhood change and succession. On one side, how people got around, walking, horse-drawn, omnibuses, electric traction, streetcars, automobiles, buses, freeways, barge, bicycles, regulated physical access to the town's acreage, determining the distance that could be covered on a daily basis and the disposition of the trip undertaken, fast or slow, relaxed or tiresome, isolated or in closer contact to both the cityscape and other people. Each type of transportation infrastructure influenced where development took place, what kind was favored, and how it was built with respect to density and lot coverage. The networks were never fully public or private. Managed by private companies in the railroad and streetcar era of communal travel and later under the jurisdiction of governmental entities, while enabling privatized freedom of movement in automobiles. Circulatory vessels between the vital urban organs, the corridors were themselves contested as to their function, sometimes accommodating a range of users and uses, other times limiting their purview to rapid vehicular passage. Entire districts could be targeted or bypassed, given help to build up or purposely disempowered. A branching of the town, as symbolized by the coast live oak, into limbs of growth, stasis, regeneration, and decay. Transportation has long been central to Oakland's identity. In 1852, it was founded as a sailing and trading port. Over the course of the late 19th century, it grew into a commercial and industrial center on the basis of its interface between shipping and railroads. In the 20th century, that interface was extended by highways, rapid rail transit, and a pioneering container seaport as well as a jet airport. Over and over, Oakland was wired to faraway destinations, other parts of California, the Bay region, and its internal geography. It has remained a destination for migrants, both national and international. Yet in a place that has of late counted as one of the nation's most ethnic and racially varied populations, barriers to land access have persisted. On the other side of the coin, then, the story of access was more complicated than being able to take part or own an automobile. Technological innovation, in and of itself, did not inherently lead to a level playing field in the urban scene. It oftentimes reconfigured enduring societal pecking orders. In American cities, residential property values were customarily set according to a scale ranging from undesirable to exclusive that corresponded to use, class, and race. Was a particular plot distant from industrial plans, commercial strips, and poor neighborhoods? Could legal contracts, or when they could not be enforced, social sanctions or brute force, keep white residents apart from Asian, Latinos, or African Americans? High home values in all white neighborhoods, one of the key markers of wealth and status, and a sign that one had attained the dream of substantial property, depended upon a contrast with lower values in poorer, mixed, and majority-minority districts. Much as the idea of whiteness itself depended upon other, subordinate racial categories, building upon earlier transportation technologies like the streetcar, the automobile, accentuated these tendencies. Cars contributed to an enhanced sense of individual freedom and potency expressed through socio-spatial sequestration. From the 1920s onward, most new automotive roads led to and catalyzed the settlement of the hills or suburbs areas that would long be off limits for people of color, who were left with the older flatlands that were separate but not equal. And this is where I'm going to stop. Still have quite of introduction left, so I would definitely pick this up. You better pick it up quick before I pick it up. I'm just joking. So it's on our news shelf. I hope you enjoyed this little reading, and like always, I'm going to see you in 2 weeks. Bye.